So my Rocket 3R has just done over 2,000 miles now, so I thought a bit of a chance to give you an update, and just riding around my local roads near where I live, where all the good people are out toning their abs and washing their high-end expensive sports cars. And this is a delightful little lane actually, where I have to really keep them peeled because these woodlands are absolutely full of deer, and they have a habit of leaping out at you at the last second, so good to keep the speed down around here. Plus there's lots of cyclists in the would-be Tour de France around here, and the middle class trying to keep fit. As those old enough to remember in England, the late John Thaw, great actor, used to play Regan in the Sweeney in the 70s, and then Inspector Morse in the 80s. I remember him once saying in a episode of Morse that I detest all forms of physical exercise. That was makes me chuckle. I get my exercise by walking the block or riding the bike. That's enough for me. My days of giving myself a heart attack playing squash are over, I think. And what nicer way to get out and about in the fresh air than riding your motorcycle. Anyway, I digress. So a couple of thousand miles now on the Triumph, getting to know it pretty well. When I first got it, I did find the sport mode a little bit sharp actually. It was kind of February time, and the roads were a bit dicey, but it was the first bike I've ridden where I thought sport was a little bit aggressive. Now I'm used to it, and the bike's running. I generally run in sport everywhere actually, you know, unless it's raining, and I might change mode, but I haven't really been caught out in the rain on the Rocket so far. In fact, it's only had one wash in those 2,000 miles and hasn't really got dirty at all, so it's done pretty well for itself. Fit finish is still really good. I do have a couple of little kind of rub marks at the base of the tank where your thighs kind of touch the hugely wide tank. I'll try and get a picture of those. They'll probably polish out. And talking of polishing, you'll probably notice all the aluminium or aluminum, and the reason why us Brits and us Americans pronounce that differently is quite literally because they're spelt differently. And what happens with that is they tend to kind of tarnish over time and develop a bit of a patina. Some like the character of that, some just think it looks a bit, you know, a bit naff. So I've polished mine just using Auto Solvo, regular over-the-counter metal polish and microfiber cloth, and just now and then I go out and have a, you know, cup of coffee in the garage and give it a little bit of a polish. Rest of the bike not too bad to clean actually. The black wheels come up pretty well. The Stylema brakes, which are the new top drawer, the new black from Brembo, they seem to don't create much brake dust actually, and they have phenomenal power. I actually let the famous Dr. Charlie have a ride on this when we were out in the sticks near Clayton on the War Woman Road, which is a famous riding road, and he got a chance to open it up a bit and was a bit ye gods, that's got some power, that engine. But as we were riding along, I was actually on his GSA. 3 dogs ran out in front of us, and he had to brake like Billy-O to you know, try and avoid the dogs. And he was seriously impressed by the power of these things. They bite like a pit bull, and let's not forget this is a very heavy bike with a long wheelbase, so you need big brakes, and it has it. And well, plenty of people out today, not much sign of social distancing. We are fortunate in that we do have a very low death count in Georgia at present. We're one of the better states, really. We have about everybody concentrates on the cumulative figures and sort of saying, oh, the trend is increasing. Well, yeah, but that's in relation to how many people you test, right? So you have to normalize the data, you have to normalize the metrics, and when you do that, you realize that about 1 in 12 people have felt the need to be tested, and of those 1 in 12, about 1 in 12 again are actually infected. So only 1 out of 12 people who thought they might have it actually did. And then it's a similar amount for hospitalizations again, actually, of those that have it. So about 1 in 12 go in hospital, and of those that end up in hospital, we're fortunate in having just below 4% fatalities. So in that respect, the risk is very low, but of course you never know whether you're a carrier with mild symptoms and you're passing it on to somebody else. And there's also news that people are getting other issues like problems with the kidneys and stuff who develop the virus, although that's a bit subjective because you never know whether they would have had those problems otherwise anyway. But anyway, I digress. It's not a video about COVID, but I hope you're all safe and well anyway, and social distancing and wearing masks and doing sensible things. But I hope you're also getting out and getting some fresh air and riding your bike sensibly. And back to the rocket then. The switch gears all stood up nice and firm. I do find the numbers on the dials a little bit tiny. For my eyes, I don't see close-up so well. I see distance brilliantly, but close-up not so well. And it took a little, took a week or so to get used to the interface, but once you do, it's fairly intuitive and straightforward. I just wish they'd done more of a, just put an oblong on there with a proper TFT, like the BMWs and the KTMs are present. I think people are used to digital dashes now. I don't think it would spoil the slightly retro looks of the bike, as long as you can clearly see the data without having to take your eyes off the road too much, and I think that would help. Now this is my phone holder, and I'm not running my iPhone. My iPhone has actually died, and Eric's had 2 iPhone 11s die this year, and we're not sure whether it's related to this mount or a combination of this mount and the rocket, or just bad luck. But the cameras have gone defective on our iPhones, and I've got one arriving this morning. But what I've done is I put some foam back rubber strips on the back of this and in the chucks of the jaws, which slide here, and I'm hoping that will and I have a new cover for my iPhone, which is like a D30 type material coming from my new iPhone, so hopefully I won't have that problem again. But if I do, I'll let you guys know, because I think that'll become a bit of a generic issue if it is. The other things I have on here is both here and here I have beeline mounts. This is a sticky mount, and this is a really nice bar clamp, and I thought the sticky mount comes with the beeline, and the bar clamp's optional extra you can order, and I ordered this because I thought it'd be aesthetically pleasing, and it is, but of course it's at a bit of an angle, whereas this can be really square on with your face. So I actually prefer the sticky mount, and I might take the nice stylish one off. Engine wise, both Eric, who has a TFC, and myself have noticed that it is a bit vibey around 3,000 revs. It's usually not an issue, you're usually riding through that, but if you end up at 3,000 revs or thereabouts for a prolonged period of time, you'll start feeling the vibes, and you can even get slightly numb hands. I'm not susceptible to that on most bikes. Most bikes where you get numb hands, it's usually holding the bars too tight, and just loosening your grip will solve that without the need to move to foam grips or anything. But I found that it is a little bit vibey, but I kind of like that in some ways, because it's kind of gives it a bit of character. It's a bit raw. It's not, everything isn't done for you. It's not a, this is not 600cc Japanese bike that's perfect for anyone who's just passed their test. This is a bike for somebody you know, who knows how to ride, and they're just, you know, just opening up, you know, 20% throttle or something, it becomes a bit of a beast. And if you've got the right line and you're slow in, slow out of bends, that'll be perfect. You know, if you're an experienced rider, you'll relish in that. But if you get it wrong, this bike will absolutely bite you. There's no doubt about that. It's 160 horsepower, 160 pound-per-feet of torque, and it's a long, heavy bike. So if you're going to bend way too fast and the camber's not friendly and you're having to brake through the bend, unfortunately, and you know, that's just going to push the bike really wide, and you don't want it understeering, you don't want to end up on the wrong side of the road. Or if you get seriously out of shape for whatever reason, you really overcook it and the bike starts buckarooing and getting a bit squirrely, you will absolutely feel every pound that's in this bike. So it's a man's bike, and I don't mean that in a boasty kind of way. I just mean it's a serious bike, and you have to respect serious bikes, whether they're serious because they're 200 horsepower but like ballerinas, or whether they are you know, the ultimate muscle bike, which I guess at the moment I would say the Rocket is, basically. But boy, a lot of fun. You know, I have a M2 competition car, I have the GSA all-rounder, and I have this, and they're all really totally different characters, really totally different types of vehicles, and it's kind of nice that, you know, just having that diversity. And it's been fun and enjoyable this year. You know, of course, when you're sat at home in your armchair, you're not thinking about your bike or your car that you've got, then you start surfing the web and you start thinking, oh, it'd be really nice if I owned you know, a Ford Bronco Wildtrak, or a Honda Goldwing DCT, or this, that and the other. And you know, they'd be good choices, they'd be nice, but equally you know, get out and drive and ride what you have, and you suddenly realise exactly why you bought them, because they'll put a grin on your face. So where are we? City of Roswell, Willio Park. Nice little view of the pond, and this really is a lovely place to live, Roswell. I really do love Roswell and Georgia. Been all over the states, and this is a lovely compromise. There's the Riverwalk. So there's a lovely compromise of high quality of living, beautiful landscaping, close to a major city, Atlanta, some major airports, plenty of work and stuff, and only an hour or so from the mountains as well, just north of Dahlonega. If anybody lives in Georgia, you'll know exactly what I mean, where the Blue Ridge Mountains begin and the, you know, the Cherokee grounds, and it's all nice. So what else can I tell you about the Rocket? Well, I've ridden it after dark, and these big kind of CB style kind of almost 70s retro headlights are phenomenal in terms of their power. Of course, they're bang up to date, they've got the daytime running lights, and they work extremely well. My brother has a Rocket 3, and he's a lot shorter in stature than me. He's probably 6 inches shorter, say, and he has just had the touring bars fitted, which raised the bars quite a bit, and he's delighted with those. He thinks it's a big improvement, and I must say that I love the width of these bars, but I would like them to be higher. So it's something I might try. I might ride a GT and see how I feel about that. And also, yeah, I've never tried the GT you know, forward pegs, so I wanted this bike because I like the colour, not available in the GT, and I thought that once up to speed, when you're ripping it, you'll want to be lent a little bit more forward and have a little bit more control in the mid controls rather than forwards. And I think that's true when you're out in the mountains and you're going for it. You do need that control. But having said that, I haven't ridden the GT excuse me, bit of hay fever. I haven't ridden the GT, and I'd like to try the difference in the ergonomics, and if I prefer them, then that's one beauty about the Rocket 3. You can just change the bars and the yeah, doing a bit of artwork. change the bars and you know, the controls, and make the bike a little bit more comfortable or a little bit more sporty, depending on your physical size and what you want the bike to do. I do find, I mentioned about a slight paint rub, but the actual paint quality is beautiful. It's a really nice finish, and I think nobody does paint better than Harley Davidson, but I don't think this is that far behind. It's a very nice paint job, and certainly on Eric's special Triumph Factory Custom, that's definitely up there with Harley quality. I haven't found any rusting or tarnishing issues other than the alloy, which goes off pretty easily, but it can be polished and it can be plastic wrapped or, you know, clear lacquered, I guess, if you wanted to. I won't bother because it's a pretty dry and hot environment that I live in. One thing I would quite like is a little bit more noise from the exhaust. On the overrun it sounds amazing. Just listen to this. I don't know if it'll pick it up, but you get those lovely pops and cracks. And I think with a more open pipe that would sound awesome. It's not so much the acceleration but the deceleration where you get some nice sounds. Now Competition Works are the first manufacturer, I believe, to offer an end can. I'm not so struck on its looks, and I hear subjective things about Competition Works, but it's about $1,000, and I'm not sure I really want to spend $1,000 just to improve the sound a little bit. So I'm not sure about that. Time out at the moment. Maybe have to hear that in person. The only thing I would maybe like a little bit more of is comfort in the seat. I do find the bike pretty comfortable, particularly for short journeys, but once you get over about 100 miles it starts getting uncomfortable. I would say it doesn't get any worse, it's just uncomfortable at that point, but you know, bearable but uncomfortable. It doesn't really get any worse, and if you stop every hour or so you're kind of okay. But I've had plenty of kind of 200 to 250 mile days out on it. You do feel slightly more beaten up the next day than when on the floaty GS Adventure, but I mean that's to be expected, right? This is a traffic light Grand Prix bike. It's made for decimating the quarter mile American style. It's not really made for, you know, breaking lap records on short circuits or carrying 2 people and luggage and comfort for 1,000 miles a weekend, you know. And in fact, I did 1,000 miles or so this last weekend, and I took the GSA. Obviously, went up to a lovely place called Switzerland Inn and rode the Back of the Dragon. There's a video on that. So I think it's just called the Back of the Dragon. So if you look, Surfer Richard Dunn Back of the Dragon, you will see that, and that was fun. But even, you know, on weekends like that, by the end of it, even the GSA isn't comfortable. I don't think no bike's really comfortable for doing ridiculous miles on. Probably had enough doing 300 miles in the car, to be honest. But anyway, we put up with it because the rest of it's so much fun, isn't it? It's being out in the elements, whether you're hot or cold or wet or dry. It's all part of realising you're alive, not just well, you're living, not just alive, I should say. And what else can I tell you about the bike then? Alright, let's run through it quickly. Mentioned the lights, phenomenal. Mentioned the brakes, phenomenal. Front forks I really like. They're pretty well dampened. Meteors, anything, aren't they? And they're fully adjustable, and I haven't felt the need to adjust them for my weight and riding style. Bars I mentioned could be a little bit higher. I like the width and shape. May look into that. I think risers may be a problem, but I may move to GT bars at some point. Clocks, I think they could have done a better job, basically, but all the information's there, and you know, what else do you need to know? Tank range is about 150 miles, and I do find that the miles to empty indicator is pretty accurate. I run it down to about 14 miles or so, and it's not let me down. Slight nuances then. Okay, to turn it on you have to kind of press it down, and then you have to kind of press it again, so it's kind of like a pressing to turn it on and then pressing to start it, rather than one simple movement. The cruise control is kind of similar. You have to press it down to invoke it, and once it's invoked you have to press it again to then actually select it. And you have to be, I think off the top of my head, something like in at least third gear, travelling at least 40 miles an hour. So that kind of throws you a bit at first. You know, you're in third gear doing 35 or something and it won't cut in, or you know, or you've only pressed it once and you're wondering why cruise hasn't, you know, invoked. So again, just a little nuance. A lot of journalists bemoan the joystick, but I get on okay with it, and I don't find that I'm constantly hitting the joystick instead of the indicator. I think the indicator is a natural 90-degree arc to your hand, and the joystick is below. I mean, it's at the same level as the horn, and I don't hear the journalists saying I'm hitting the horn all the time. So I think that's just something you get used to in 15 minutes. I still love the beautifully discreet little heated grip button I have here. Heated grips was an optional extra, the only optional extra I went for, and it's just so nice to use and very discreet. Keeps the bars looking clutter free. I do like the way they've given the reservoir covers black finish, total black finish, and the black bars and the internal wiring. It's a very clean look, and of course it has the power socket there, which runs off from my phone, so that's pretty ideal as well. I like the bar end mirrors. Yeah, you can get more stylish ones from Rizoma or something if you want to throw 350 bucks at it, but as stock mirrors go, very stylish, very solid, very clear. Get a very good view behind you, which is pretty much elbow free. Now moving to, and we mentioned the seat, I think it's pretty good. Certainly probably better than any Harley I've owned, but yeah, maybe something from Corbin eventually would be the order of the day. Again, if you want to throw kind of $700-800 their way. At the back, I love the LEDs, they're super stylish, and I love the back end. A little bit disappointed with the paint, because I kind of wanted the sports seat insert and they weren't available from the off, and underneath the pillion seat it's got some rubber bungs, and they kind of mark the paint, so that when you remove the pillion seat, which it's kind of bolted to the front of the seat, so it's not just a case of just removing it. It leaves those marks, and I don't know if I get a sports seat insert whether they'll polish out, which would be very disappointing if they don't. I'd also like to see an option of a side mount for the license tag plate, the number plate. I'd love to see that go so that it shows off the big fat rear end, even though you can get water up your back when it rains. And the rear shot, I don't know why they did this, but Ducati did this as well, and it's such an obvious failing to me, other than they want to keep the rear end low to attract people of a short stature, is they put the rear preload on the minimum setting as standard. It's like 0 out of 18, and it drags its rear end like a dog taking a dump. Well, no, that's kind of doing a disservice to it, but it's just it's noticeable that it's too low and has too little movement in it. And the same with the Ducati Diavel that I own, the carbon red, and that was on minimum preload as well. So I've set mine to the middle, which is 9 out of 18, and I think that's kind of set up for sporty solo riding, and that helps the bike steer significantly better, and just helps the rear rebound preload, which I've also just increased just a tad, just a hair's width, to, you know, steer better basically. So that's pretty much it, front to rear, for a 2,000 mile update. Tyres are still looking pretty good. I'm not sure how many miles I'll get out the rear, maybe 4th hour looking at it. They haven't squared off. The bike still steers pretty well considering its weight and length. It really helps to increase that rear preload and use some counter steer, of course, on the bars. But other than that, I mean, it's a phenomenal bike. You know, if you accept the fact that you can't carry anything on it, you're going to be carrying a rucksack with you, or a fanny pack bum bag, or a man sling or something. Apart from that, you know, it's pretty golden, and I still like it very much. If you like this sort of bike, you already know what it is that you like about the bike, and you already are in the hunt for this type of bike. And competition wise, it doesn't really have that much true competition. It has the Yamaha VMAX, which is a very old design now, but it's, you know, it's a well built bike and can be had at a very keen price point. Residual values are not going to be as good in my personal opinion, but it's an option. And then in addition to that, you have from Harley Davidson, you have the Fat Bob, which I think is a great muscle bike. I don't get on with it quite so well ergonomically. It just feels slightly weird to me. It's a bike I really wanted to love. I actually owned a first gen Fat Bob, and when I tried the 114, I just thought, I really want to get this bike. This will be a great second bike. And it just was a bit, you know, after I rode it, I just kind of thought, I don't know whether I prefer riding it any more than the Fat Boy or any other, you know, Softail Harley. So anyway, worth a demo if you like Harleys. And then of course there is the Ducati Diavel, which I would say is his closest rival, because it's a proper performance muscle bike, and it's modern in terms of how it feels. I've owned a Diavel myself, and I think the pros of the Diavel are it's a little bit lighter than the Rocket, and it's Italian, so you know, it's just one of those things. You either like that sort of thing or you don't. That was Eric on his Indian Challenger. I'll just pop up and see him. Hey,
too nice not to ride. I was at the Alpharetta Farmers Market. It's awesome. It's a beautiful farm. They even have live entertainment now, but it's pretty sizable. It's right in downtown Alpharetta. Listen to this. Stage 1 air cleaner, and these slip-ons sound nice.
Do that again. I've got the camera running. Oh, nice.
Back pressure down the hill. Pop, pop, pop. I mean, it's like that all the way down the hill. It's very nice. Much different. Much better.
Oh yeah, it sounds a lot better.
Got the new bars.
I love these foot pegs still. I mean,
yeah.
They're so expensive but beautiful.
They make grips to match, but not heated ones.
Right. Yeah, so Eric's just at his stage 1, and it sounds pretty awesome, I must admit. Sounds nice, looks nice. So where was I? Just finishing off, and yeah, the Diavel, you know, again, I think Ducatis are a bit like Harleys. If you know you really want one, you really buy into the brand and everything it is, that's what you'll want. But and it's a little bit lighter and sportier, I'd say, than the Rocket. But personally, I prefer the Rocket. I haven't owned both, and not just because I currently own it, but because that's just my view. It's really hard to you know, as Americans say, no substitute for cubes, and this has cubes, right? It's literally twice as big as my 1250 BMW. It's 2.5 litre longitudinal triple, and the engine on this just, well, it's just an experience, you know. It's not clinically smooth like a 6-cylinder BM or something. It's just raw and characterful, and that means you're not going to get bored of it in 5 seconds, right? So I like it still. Nice job, Triumph. I think you're killing it at the moment with the Tiger and some of your TFC models, so That's the update for now. I'll give you an update at a later date.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.